So a little bit about the exam at sort of high level. So it consists of, as I said before, multiple choice questions, typically A, B, C, D, and one of those answers or one of those options will have the correct answer. And in the exam, there are 40 questions. Okay, 40 questions. And the amount of time you have to complete the exercise is 60 minutes, 1 hour. Okay. So you could do the maths in terms of, how much time per question. But in reality, particularly if you've done practice, then you'll find that you've probably got more than enough time. Yeah, it's highly unlikely you're going to be, sort of looking at the clock thinking, I've only got a few minutes left and I've got a lot of questions to do. So with the practice, you should become quite comfortable with the pace. For those who are taking the exam and English is not your first language, those that may have some specific medical conditions that allow you to get extra time, there will be, I think it's an additional 15 minutes as well. If, say, English isn't your first language, or you've got a medical condition that they recognise as eligible to have extra time. So things like maybe dyslexia would be a good example. But typically for most of us, it's 60 minutes. And of course, what do we need to do to pass? What do we need to do to get that certificate, that qualification, globally recognised? Well, you need to score 65% or 26 out of 40. Okay. Now, you might think, well, that's quite generous. Quite a lot of questions I can get wrong and can probably still pass. You've got to get 26. Okay. You've got to get 26. Yeah. Get 39, get 38. No problem. You've got to get 26. Okay. So, make sure you do that revision, make sure you do those sample papers, and make sure that that 26 is in your grasp when you take the exam for real. A couple of things around probably exam terminology, to be honest. It's called closed book. So all that means is basically when you take the exam, which is online and proctored or with an invigilator who will join the session to guide you through the process and observe how you perform during the exam, then it's really you, your laptop, your desktop, and nothing else. You can't take a book, you can't take notes, you can't take post-it stickers, you can't have aid memoirs. Yeah, there's no mobile phone, there's no phone a friend. It literally is you, your desktop, laptop, and the questions in front of you. Okay. And no negative marking. So basically, there's every question, if you get it right, is worth 1 mark. Okay. It says there, never leave answers blank. Well, if you're watching the clock and you've got 2 to go and you haven't got enough time and you're not sure the answer, then of course, just have a go. You never know. But if you pace yourself with those sample papers, then as I said before, I think you'll find an hour is more than enough. One general sort of hint for people taking the ITIL 4 exams, each ITIL 4 course, so foundation as an example, includes a formal syllabus, okay, which outlines the topics that as a student you must understand, and as a training provider, the content that must be provided to allow students to actually answer questions on that topic. So it pretty much gives you the sort of run through of the sort of things you will need to understand, the areas of a topic that you will get questions. Okay. And also it also shows how many marks in an exam are allocated. So across that 40 questions, it will show in the syllabus where sort of, I suppose, points are won or lost across the different topics within the scope of ITIL 4 Foundation. So always worth maybe reviewing that syllabus again, just to remind yourself of the key things you're typically going to get those questions on and where the marks are sort of won and lost in terms of the volume of marks allocated to particular topics. So, topics you must know. Well, I think we sort of briefly outlined that in one of the earlier slides, but the sort of structure of ITIL 4 as a training course pretty much is around these sort of very high level 5 areas. So again, this isn't a webinar on ITIL 4. We're not going to go into any great detail of the content, but as it's there, we'll just briefly mention what they stand for. So ITIL 4 guiding principles. So guiding principles, there are 7 that basically, organizations encourage their people to sort of adopt and follow when they're looking to do things. Yeah. It puts a lot of emphasis on, the benefits of collaboration, on sharing ideas and thoughts before you move forward, about sort of big picture or holistic thinking. So try to look at, the bigger picture when you're making maybe one small change. Look at the bigger sort of picture of what that change may have in terms of impact on the wider end-to-end or the bigger system. And a real reminder that everything we do should deliver some value. Yeah, if it doesn't deliver value, if it doesn't add value, then why are you doing it? Okay, so the guiding principles, the 4 dimensions of service management, again, to give us a sort of big picture feel of the sort of considerations we need to consider when looking to do something new, when looking to change something that already exists, arguably when we look to maybe decommission or lose something. So what are the things we need to think about? The 4 dimensions around organizations and people, our information and technology, our partners and suppliers, and our ways of working. Yeah. So whenever we're looking to do something different, let's make sure we consider almost as a planning sort of template, a brainstorming template, all the things that might need to be considered when we look to change something. The idea being that we don't unconsciously forget things or leave things out. Okay, so those 4 dimensions gives you that sort of nice, sort of balanced approach to think sort of holistically of all the things we need to consider, and we don't unconsciously leave things out. Okay, the best analogy I have for this is if you were building a house, yeah, and you forgot to include in the design a kitchen, it wouldn't be a very good house. And if you leave it out, it's going to cost you a lot more money, take a lot more time, and arguably be quite problematical to put it in after you've built the house. Okay, and that's what the 4 dimensions is trying to avoid. The service value system is effectively the structure of ITIL 4, and it has 5 components, things that every organization that wants to deliver high quality value from its IT services needs to have in place. So it'll include things such as good governance, continual improvement, as an example. A service value chain, a sort of key or core operating system or operating model that organizations follow. So it identifies the activities you need to undertake if you were moving from an idea for a new service to ultimately deliver it. Yeah, what's the route we take? What are the activities we undertake to actually deliver that? And then finally, ITIL practices and purpose. So the ways of working, 34 practices in total across the whole of the ITIL 4 sort of, if you like, family. What are those practices there for? The people, the process, the ways of working, the tools, for things like incident, for things like problem, for things like change, availability, service continuity, etc. So over 34 practices. So of course, those are the ways we work. That's where the work gets done. So quite a lot of emphasis in the ITIL 4 Foundation exam on making sure you understand a core subset of those 34 practices. You'll be pleased to know that actually in the syllabus, you only need to understand 15 of those practices. 8 at very high level, 7 a little bit of detail, but we only cover 15. If you go on to do other ITIL courses, then more and more practices are introduced in those subsequent courses. Okay, but 15 practices, you need to really understand the purpose of each of those, and for 7, a little bit more detail. So that's what you need to really sort of absorb, comprehend, and understand to be successful with an ITIL 4 Foundation